We are live. There it is. We are live.
This shit's fire.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another live Pin the Gas podcast on this beautiful Friday afternoon. And ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute honor to sit down with the legend himself, Dave Hewson, on the podcast today. But before we get into that, this episode is sponsored by Next Level Financial. Take control of your financial future. Get your complimentary financial analysis today by Seth Starnes. And Dave, my second sponsor, which is really good friends of mine, they make custom leathers out here in America, Bison, right? Which I'm an honor to be an ambassador for. And I tell everybody, and I know it's the same over there, and you can vouch for this, don't spend your hard-earned money on an off-the-rack suit because it's not going to fit you correctly. When you have a suit that does not fit you correctly, it hinders all kinds of problems on the motorcycle, right? So I tell everybody, go to bisontrack.com, sign up, get that full custom suit started. You see mine right here in the background, right?
Try and point to it.
Like that, there you go. Yeah, that's it. And then I got the chest protector, I got the gloves, I got the whole nines. It's super easy, cowhide, kangaroo, perforated, all that good stuff. Listen, bisontrack.com, get you a custom suit tailored and measured specifically for you, and you will absolutely fall in love. And then you'll be like, why'd I ever spend my money on this off the rack suit, right? I mean, but yeah,
made to measure is always better, because who doesn't want bespoke?
Right?
Exactly.
Right? Thank you, Dave. Thank you. But yes, listen, ladies and gentlemen, as I said at the beginning, it's an absolute honor to sit down with Dave Hewson. Mate, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's always nice to get an invite to come and basically talk about myself, because I am an expert on me. So let's do it.
Let's do it, man. Yeah, absolutely, dude. And I'm a huge fan. Obviously, everybody, I watch Obsession Engineering on YouTube. I listen to his two recent podcasts on TT Plus, which if you guys don't listen to TT Plus or watch the TT, I don't even know what you're doing, right? But Dave, dude, listen, the only preset question I have is, where's your humble beginning start with two wheels?
A load of mates. When I was 15, a load of mates of mine who were like a year above me at school got bikes when they were 16, because you can get 50cc stuff over here at 16. So I had one mate got a Piaggio Typhoon, which you look back and go, terrible. But at the time, they were cool. And another mate had a better one. He had a DT50 Yamaha, proper like dirt bike thing. And that was it. It was just like, you'd go and nick their bikes and ride around the block on it. And yeah, so as soon as I was 16, I didn't have much money. I couldn't afford a DT, so I had a £300 Yamaha Jog scooter with a blue top box on it. It was proper like your mum riding to the library kind of thing. It was terrible. Put no fear stickers on it and all that nonsense. Used it to ride to work, and that just sort of got me into it. And then a mate of mine worked at the local Ducati and Aprilia shop. And I was like, yeah, these things are cool. Ended up working there on Saturdays, bought an Aprilia 125 when I got an apprenticeship and had some money to spend, and then basically learned how to fix motorbikes by fixing a 125 Aprilia, because that's what you do. And it all snowballed from there, basically. And and now I'm buried deep in it. And you want to change it, really?
Dude, absolutely. Not just buried deep in it, Dave. You've had a proper mega journey along the way, too. Yes. I mean, it's dude, from the Isle of Man TT to BSB with Rapid Moto Honda, and everything in between. It's dude, you're a freaking legend, bro. Like, in my eyes, you're an absolute legend, right? So it's to me, Dave, when I talk about the TT, people are like, oh yeah, the solos, this and that, and how fast they go. I was like, what blows my mind more than anything about anybody at the TT? It's the monkeys in the sidecar. Right.
Oh yeah, idiots. I mean,
they are the
crazy. I know a few
idiots. I mean,
when they get off, like you watch them ride and you go, "Are you a lunatic?" And then they get off and you go, "Yeah, you actually are." Yeah.
yeah. You were out here. You deserve 3 pints on me. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah. There is the sidecar lot are a different breed. I'm going to put it out there. The solo, like basically, when I get on that bike, I'm pretty much in control of my own destiny. You get on a sidecar, especially as the passenger, and you go, at what point did you think, I want to go motorbike racing, but I want to have absolutely no control over how fast I'm going or really which way I'm pointing? And you go, passengering, that's for me. It's, I mean, bravery above and beyond, but yeah, they're a special breed.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Which brings me to the question, Dave, have you rode in a sidecar? Have you ever been to
I've ridden side passenger in an outfit once, and that was when I started club racing, first or second year I was club racing. Me and a couple of mates said, oh yeah, it'd be cool to have a go in a sidecar. And there was a call over the tannoy on the test day. Does anybody want to go passenger in a sidecar? Because the passenger hasn't turned up on the test day. And this guy, he needs to run an engine in. So there was 2 sessions, and me and my mate both went, oh yeah, this sounds really cool. So my mate goes and does the first one. Then I don't see him before I go and get on it. And the guy gives you the real simple instructions. He goes, there's a handle in the middle of the chair. And he goes, you hold on to that with your left hand, never ever let go. And he said, you just move around with your right hand. One's by the wheel and one's on top of that one and leaning in and out. He said, if you want to, just sit there. And I'm like, okay. So I think he's running an engine in, and he's on a Gixxer 1000 outfit. So it's pretty fast. It's an F1 outfit. I don't know that much about sidecars at this point. And as he's rolling out the pit lane, out the little slip road at Cadwell, he shouts to me, I'm just checking my gearing. And I think, that's not the same as running an engine in. It's like, you're not doing that at 5,000 RPM, are you? And we did, actually, and the one thing he said, if you want to stop, just bang on the phone behind me, and I'll hear you, and we'll pull in. And it's like I was riding around. I was thoroughly enjoying myself. He had the chair wheel up, and I thought I was a world championship level passenger. My mates watching thought I was like a sack of potatoes, but it was good fun. But then when I got back, my mate was stood there with his holding onto his arm. I was like, "What happened to you?" He went, "I got confused." He said, "The switch between turn 1 and turn 2, Cadwell, Coppice and Charlie's, it's quite fast, left to right." And he went to change hands and let go of everything, and then hit his arm really hard on the fairing and basically gave himself a dead arm on lap 1. So he's holding it. He gets the left hand back on the bar, and he's then riding around. And he said he's trying to trying to tell him to stop me. He said he's got this arm. He's like this on the seat unit, and he said this guy has no idea he wants to stop. He's absolutely petrified because he can barely hold on. And he said he's 18 minutes more track time just trying to cling onto this F1 outfit. I was like, see, I quite enjoyed it, but he had a terrible time.
Oh my God, dude, that would have been funny to have an onboard camera with your friend at the time doing it. It'd be like me trying to eat with a spoon right now, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it, dude. I love it.
Oh, it's brilliant. It was. Yeah.
So go ahead, Dave.
No, it's all right. I know. Just a couple of years ago, I nearly got roped into being passenger for Molly for a parade lap around the island because I know Pat Farrant, and Molly needed somebody. He was doing a tyre test at the Manx Grand Prix, but on a parade lap. And I think it was a bit of a, go and just have a ride around. But luckily, he found somebody else who actually knew what they were doing, because that would have been an experience.
Yeah, and then you get in there, like Humble said, I'm checking my gearing. You're like, wait, what? That's not the same as breaking in a motor. Like, I'm on for a proper ride. Yeah. Hold up. Can I think about this? By then it's too late, right? Yeah. Hold on, baby. Dude, that's awesome. I know Peter Essoff. He's a good buddy of mine. He actually come over there and race the sidecars at the TT, and I got a bunch of friends that actually race sidecars, and they invited me to come and be the little monkey. But of course, our tracks ain't nothing like Cadwell Bar.
Is it?
It's not the same, right? But I can't wait to do it, right? So I can have that feeling, because I know it's got to be a different feeling than sitting on a solo and riding it yourself, But that's part of the journey.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you just got to go, I'll have a go at that.
Yeah,
see what happens. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So growing up, getting that RS125, I mean the Aprilia, man, what a beautiful machine too, right?
Oh, it was cool.
Getting into track days, what persuaded you to actually do club racing from doing track days and then getting into BSB? Like I wanted to know that whole journey, and then going, I want to give the TT a shot, right? Which is absolutely, because there's very few people that they say they want to do it, but actually showing up and doing it's two different
Oh
things,
yeah,
right? So tell us your whole journey about that, mate.
yeah. So I had me little RS125, and then as soon as I passed my test, pretty much as soon as I was 17, but our license is restricted to 33 horsepower or whatever, so I could ride me 125. But after I'd had it a year, I was like, I want a 400. I want the next step up. And I was doing an apprenticeship, so I was actually earning a bit of money. And I was like, I reckon I can afford an RVF 400. And this is as good as a 400 gets. These things are awesome. And even now, they're awesome. And I found one fairly local to me. Went and paid him money. And it was supposed to be restricted, but back then, nobody really cared. So nobody was checking. So it was full power. And I had it on the road for, a few months. I mean, I crashed it fairly quickly. Trying to make a home video with my mate. So somewhere there's an old VHS film of me. So I actually threw it into the back of my mate's car because he parked his car just off the corner. And if you got enough lean angle on him, you could get the side stand pivot on the floor and then open the gas. And of course, there ain't a lot of grip. So yeah, so I then got the chance to go. Yeah, there was a track day at Cadwell, and track days weren't big. We're talking 1999. So there was a few a year, but not many. So I go on this track day and riding around. I thought I was it. I thought I was fast. Could get my knee down on the road. I was the boy. Turn up on a track day and go, this is really cool. Because you could just go fast all the time. And the bit that then taints it is the ride home. Because you ride home thinking you're riding fast and it feels so slow because you've done track fast. So then I got talking to a chap I was working with doing my apprenticeship. He raced drag bikes. And I said to him, I quite fancy, I might spend a year doing a few track days and buy some wets on wheels and put some race frames on my bike and then go racing. And he just went, if you want to go racing, just go racing. He went, if you don't commit to it straight away, so many things can get in the way. You might end up never doing it. And so his name was Carl. He was right. So I think I did one more track day at the end of that year, and then literally did my novice license, turned up at Snetterton, didn't have a clue what I was doing, where I was going. I bought a van for 700 quid. The speedo didn't work in it. And me and my mate just pitched up and went, well, we'll learn, won't we? And if I'm honest, that's sort of how I've lived life. If you're not sure, just turn up and have a go. And you'll work it out.
I love it, dude. I love the motto, man. I think,
man,
this place I think would be a better world if people did that all the time, right? Just wing it, man. Sometimes that's the best thing to do is just swing it,
Oh yeah.
And that was back before, of course, we had tire warmers and all that stuff. We had no clue, we just show up with DOT tires and just think we're proper fast until we get on a track and we got this 11-year-old that comes around the outside on a Milwaukee or whatever it is, 125, and you're on a 400 and you're like, yeah, okay, I don't know anything about riding. You know what I'm saying? I think I do, but I really don't.
No. Well, I can remember, it was Snetterton was my first meeting. The race day was April Fool's Day 2000. So that's fairly apt. And but I'm there on the test day learning my way around. And Snetterton back then was pretty easy to learn. And then towards the end of the lap, there's a corner called Coram. It's real long, fast, like fourth or fifth gear on a 400. And I've got my knee down, and it's like, I think I'm absolutely on the limit. And a lad called Jace Holland on an RS250 probably came round the outside of me, came underneath the guy in front of me, and outside of another guy in one corner. And you watch him going, I've got a bit to learn yet. And a year later, I was elbows out fighting with him. And I'd learned quite fast. But yeah, it's just you just throw yourself into the deep end and you work it out as you go along. And yeah, I did. What did I do? First year I did on my RVF. Then I bought a ZXR 400 because they were easy to tune. Got on the podium with that, I think, once or twice during the year. The next year on the ZXR, I made it a bit better. Got it tuned a bit better and sorted a few bits out and put an Olin shock in it. And then we ended up fighting for a 400 championship at club level. And there was 40 races in the championship. It was a busy year. Back when club racing, every day, there was 2 races every day. You'd have 4 races over a weekend, loads of meetings. It was mega. And it came down to me and a lad called Riccardo Ballerini. And I mean, what chance did I stand, Dave Hewson, against a bloke called Riccardo Ballerini?
Right.
Exactly. He clearly had about 10 horsepower on me with a name like that.
Right.
And it actually came down to whoever won the last race of the year won the championship. And he out-dragged me to the line at Brands Hatch. He beat me by literally that far. Like,
you can't even be mad, Ricardo, right? No, I mean, come on, exactly. Man.
Yeah, I still every now and again I still see him now. He still races a little bit, and every time we meet up, we have a good laugh. And the nice thing is we both moved on to 600s the next year, and he did a lot of falling off, and I was generally right behind him when I did it. And every time you have that bit in your head, it's like, I'm still sat on my bike. You shouldn't be glee when somebody falls off. There's just that little bit in there.
I love it, man. I love it. But you know, it's what I love about I call it our beautiful circus, man. Is the people you meet, they're instant friends, right? It's not like you go to a football game, which Americans got that wrong too. It's football, soccer, right? To me, which I love soccer. But you know, any other sports you go to, you don't have that bond. You do, but it's nothing like a motorcycle circus.
Oh yeah,
it's absolutely it's hard to explain to people, Dave, that's never experienced it, you know.
There is an oddity, and especially against people you've like fought with quite closely week in, week out. And it's like you think, I've danced closer to him than I've danced to most girls in nightclubs, but we're doing 100 mile an hour. And it's like that you build this sort of intimacy with somebody at that point. There's a trust. And you just years later you bump into these people, and you still all love the racing, and you all love it, and it's we get older and grayer a little bit, but it's still you just meet great people, don't you?
And you pick up where you left off, whether it was 5 years, 10 years. You're like, mate, it's been so long. What's going on? You get a hug in, order a pint, and 3 hours just boom, 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 boom. Like nothing, you know, you guys hadn't any elapse in time, right?
Oh yeah, and you remember, and just somebody goes, "Oh, you remember when you whipped me at the hairpin at Mallory Park?" And you're like, "Yeah, I do." Yeah, it's just like, and you bounce off forwards, backwards, and it's
You're like, man, I forgot about that, but since you mentioned it, yes, I do. Yes, and you still owe me 5 pounds.
Yes,
you still owe me my 5 pounds. Where's it at? Oh man, I love it.
Yeah.
So going from, sorry, Dave. Go
no, Karen. Yeah,
I was going to say,
I can go off on a tangent anytime. So
dude,
no, just
bro,
keep me on track.
You're good, bro. I get the same way though. You know, it's like I said, we're two friends. Listen, one of my mottos I tell everybody is none of us are strangers. We're just friends that haven't met yet. Right.
Nice.
Which is true. Okay. So dude, our energies, the way we do our love for the sport, dude, man, you can sit here and have a 4 or 5 hour podcast easily. Right. Yeah. I can see that already.
But as we know from the sidecar passengers, some of us are stranger than others.
Facts. Right. But this is what I say, Dave, in our beautiful circus, which is not very big, there's always clowns in it, right? But we embrace and love those clowns, because without them, it wouldn't be a circus, you know?
Exactly. I love it. Yeah, that's it.
We actually have Jimmy Chance and Tom Neve. What is up, Tom? Watching the podcast.
Oh, hey, Tom.
Yeah, Tom's awesome, man. He's a absolute legend.
Yes, yeah, and in a couple of weeks we're flat tracking with the new Supersport team, and hopefully Tom and Tim, if they're watching, can come and join in and show us how it should be done, because them boys are awesome on flat trackers.
Yes, they are. I had the honor to sit down with Tom on my podcast. It was amazing, man. It's again, it's an honor to be doing what I'm doing and have all these friends in our circus from around the world. And when you meet them and you talk to them, man, you know, people, I guess growing up and being such a fan of the sport, you know, you idolize everybody, but when you get to know them, they're just normal people like me and you, right? But they just have this gift where they're so devastatingly fast on a motorcycle, which we envy, right? And we love to see them. So absolute awesome, man. So going from club racing, what made you decide to go, you know what, I want to go race the TT? And Dave, tell everybody, like, because a lot of Americans don't know, it's not like you just sign up for a track day or you pay a fee for Moto America and you show up to the racetrack during the race weekend, you get to race. You got to almost be invited to the TT, so to speak, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Because I did 400s for 3 years at club level. Then I did a couple of years on 600s at club level. High side had a few bikes, but that's the way it goes. And then I just before we get to the TT bit was I ended up with a teammate, a lad called Guy Sanders. Unfortunately, we lost in a crash at Mondello in 2007. But he was doing R6 Cup, and I was club racing 600s, and so he'd come to the club races I would do, and I'd come to the occasional BSB and give man pitboarding or whatever. But as a team, we were like, oh well, we'll go and do super stock. We're going to do stock 1000, and I was like, I'd love to go on like a BSB level. So we bought ZX10s. By this point, I'm buried deep in credit cards. But motorbike racing, you can pay that later. So I buy an 04 ZX10. And Guy's dad bought him a couple of 05 ones or whatever. And as a team, we go off and we go do super stock for a couple of years. And there used to be 2 full grids of super stock bikes. So I was in like the lower class, but I had a couple of top 5s and I went all right. But Guy was next level. He could win at super stock level. He'd won at R6 level. He was mega. One of those people who could just go fast on a motorbike. I'm not sure he knew how. He just did it, which is slightly annoying, but you kind of loved him for it. Yeah, and sometimes you just get these lads who turn up who can just do it better than the people around them, relatively naturally. You're like, if only I had that. I always had to work at it a bit more. But I did, a year at Superstock Cup and then a year at Superstock Championship. And during that time, like the TT was on the radar. And weirdly, it was one of those things that I never saw myself as being good enough to race TT. But it had been on my radar a couple of times. I've been able to watch the Manx because it didn't clash with stuff with work and stuff as much. And I had mates doing classic bikes at the Manx. So I went to see Classic Alan riding around at the Manx. First time I went, got off the ferry, throwing it down with rain. I didn't know where the paddock was. I literally rode along. I got to Laxey. I went completely the wrong way, and the roads are soaking wet, and I'm cold and I'm miserable. And I get to the paddock eventually, and I'm sleeping in the back of somebody else's van. And I was there for like 3 or 4 days. It just rained, and it was miserable. And I could not get my head around how you learnt this 38-mile tarmac. So I actually went home the first time. I went, not interested in that. That's ridiculous. But it just niggles at you. It just sort of, there's a little bit in the back of your head that just goes, TT's cool. He's like, you'd see these like Dave Jeffries videos and stuff like that, and it just looked cool. And I was at a wedding reception, and the girl I'd been put on a table with mentions, I mentioned about, oh yeah, I race motorbikes, thinking I'm really cool. And she just, her instant reply was, oh, do you race the Isle of Man? I was like, I've been put in place, haven't I? So obviously that must have been the trigger for wanting to go and race TT. And because I was doing super stock at British Championship, Milky Quayle was in the paddock at the last round of the year in 2006. And weirdly, I've met Milky before in Lincoln because his wife had lived not far from Lincoln when they met or something. And so every now and again, he reappeared in that area, and I met him in a bike shop in Lincoln. And he says, oh, hello, Dave, how you doing? And I said, and I just sort of mentioned, I went, been over a couple of times. I quite fancy doing, I want to come and race it. And he did I said, do I do Manx Grand Prix, the sensible approach that you start off a bit steadier and you've got a bit more time to go, or do I go TT? And he went, oh, you're fast enough to come to TT. Come to TT. You're out with the faster riders, so there's less people on track. It doesn't cost you because they, it's better funded for TT and stuff like that. Just come to TT. So I got home, sent an email off to Paul Phillips, get a reply a few days later. We'd love to have you at TT. And I can remember getting the email. I was sat at work in the test bay at Siemens doing turbine engineering. And I was sat in one of the test beds, and I got this email, and I had that moment of, I went,
oh, shit.
Basically it was like, oh, crap, it looks like I'm going to be a TT racer. And it was like, how did this happen? Just you do your homework. You do a lot of homework.
YouTube videos.
Well, back then it was, they actually sent me half a dozen like onboard DVDs. He had like On Bike Experience 3, and the best one was, you're like this. Have you ever seen Tony Pond? And it was what do they call it? TT, is it TT Experience or TT Challenge?
TT Challenge, yes.
TT Challenge with Tony Pond. To anybody else who's not seen it, Tony Pond was a rally driver in the 70s and 80s. And he lived on the Isle of Man, and he had this Rover 800 Vitesse. This is a massive, I mean, for Americans, it's basically a city car. Yeah. But for us, this is a big chunk of car with like a 2.5 litre V6 Honda engine in it. And he set 100-mile-an-hour lap in this thing. And they claim it was standard, but it had a big exhaust pipe on it and slicks, and it was nowhere near standard by the time they'd finished. But the video from it's really good quality because they could put a better camera on that than they could get on the bikes at the time. And the perspective's different. And so you'd watch the bike ones, and then you'd watch Tony Pond, and you go, actually, the Tony Pond one's quite useful because the perspective is a bit better because it's a better lens. But yeah, I was doing 1, 2, 3 onboards a night, every night. And I had a circuit guide, so I'd go through the circuit guide, and I found it easier if I learnt the names of the corners, so in my head it sequenced together better. And I mean, now I've forgotten half of it, but I don't need to know that anymore, so it's fine. Yeah, and I remember it was 8 months. I did at least 1 onboard a night, quite often 2 or 3. So, you know, sometimes you'd be over an hour sat at home watching DVDs, learning it. You have a few trips over, you ride around it on your road bike, or they send Connor out and you do a lap in the van with him or something. And yeah, I knew my way around before I got there. But it makes it a little bit different when you've got to control the throttle.
Right. And what did your parents say when you was like, I'm going to TT?
Weirdly, nobody else in my family rides motorbikes at all. Well, my granddad on my mum's side had a Scott when he was, you know, in his 20s or 30s or something. But nobody else is into bikes. Nobody else has ever gone racing. They're all relatively sensible people. And I think as soon as I said I was going motorbike racing at all, my mum had her head in her hands. And that sort of was how it went for about the next 20 years. But I don't remember them particularly saying much. I think by this point they understood that I was going to do it anyway. So, they would never try and stop me doing stuff, and that was great. It was. I know a lot of riders have like parents in the paddock all the time and loads of support and loads of money and whatever. And it's like my folks came along and watched a few races. It's not their scene, but they would always like let stuff slide. Like if I owed them a bit of money because I'd had to buy another van or you know I hadn't paid for stuff, they'd just let stuff slide, and I got away with quite a lot. And yeah, there was always that thing where you knew you had this structure behind you at home where if anything went wrong, they'd look after you. But they just let me go and do my own thing, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool, man. It's I know if I told my mom, I remember I grew up in the motorcycles and I wanted a street bike. My mom was like, absolutely not. You know, you're gonna kill yourself and blah 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 blah. You know, and I get it because I'm a dad now, so you just want to protect your children at all costs. But it comes to a point to where you see that whatever it is, artistry, motorcycles, whatever it is, makes them so happy and they're so in tune with it that you just got to accept it as a parent and just love them for who they are and let them, you know, kind of figure it out themselves. But I know if I told my mom I was going to go race the Isle of Man TT, she'd lock me up in a freaking room and throw away the key. And I'd be a little prisoner. I'd have a little cutout in the door. She'd give me little plates of food underneath there and all that stuff. So my dad, on the other hand, break me out and say, let's go, you know, but yeah. Yeah, not my mama for sure. Speaking of Milky Quail, man, huge fan of his too. Obviously watched him and his son, Ilham Quail, actually races too, and which is awesome. Have you had the honor to actually meet and talk to Ilham?
Yeah, in a weird way around, because I've done quite a lot the last few years with Hondas, super stock bikes and super bikes, and I know Milky fairly well. I got a message off them at the start of the year because they bought a Fireblade to race, and they went, "Oh, could you come along for a weekend club racing with us and give us a hand setting it up and working the electronics and stuff?" And I knew Illy a little bit in passing, like literally, I knew him in passing. So I turn up, and there's Milky, Illy, Phil the sponsor, Illy's mum, Lydia, and there's this great little team. And of course, Milky's got so much knowledge and so much experience with bikes that he's into everything. and he gets so nervous when Illy's out on track, and it's bizarre to see because he's always so casual and so fun and so lively, and then he almost goes silent. It's odd because it's his lad. Yeah, so I worked with him for a weekend. We had a good weekend. I've done a couple more weekends since then, and he was hoping to go to TT next year, 25, but they've not given an entry because he's not done any other road racing, and so they want him to gain a bit more experience yet. But the deal was if he went to TT, I was going to mechanic for him basically, and so yeah, because they're good people, and he's quick on a bike. Yeah, that boy can ride.
Yes, you can.
So,
yes, you can. Yeah, I've actually had a couple conversations with Ilham. Plan on having him to sit down with me on the pod, which is awesome. Yeah. I remember watching. Man, I forget the name of the video, Dave. I got introduced to the TT back in high school by a buddy of mine's uncle because he knew I was into motorcycle racing and loved motorcycles. He's like, "You ever heard of the TT?" I was like, "I've heard of it, but here in America, it's not televised. Or we don't get a chance to see it." Well, Duke Video, he ordered one at Duke. I forget the year it was. He throws it in there. Man, I'm freaking glued to the TV. Like, what in the world is this? And from that day, it's been my absolute favorite race of all time. So I spent a lot of money at Duke Video and TT and all that. Right? So yeah, David Jeffries, man, I seen the whole thing, man. Carl Fogarty, all of them. It's TT. It's a special race, unlike any other race in the world, right? Even over the Northwest 200 and the Macau and all that, TT is the one race. It's like Daytona for America.
Yeah, it's the way I look at it is I said there's three pinnacles of racing motorbikes, depending on what discipline you're doing. And it's a bit simplified, I admit, but it's like the three pinnacles are the MotoGP, Dakar. If you ride anything off road, surely Dakar is the ultimate, or the Isle of Man TT. It's like they're to me the three echelons of motorbike racing. They're the holy trinity, and the fact that I'm just a normal bloke and I got to go and race TT. I mean, that's just amazing, really. Even now, I sort of look around. I've got a cabinet full of trophies and stuff, and I look at them and just do that thing where I was like, I got those, but weirdly. Sometimes it feels like it was a different person doing it. There's this weird disconnect where most of the time I'm quite sensible-ish and fairly level-headed and like quite methodical. And then there was a point where I really, really liked to basically switch that bit of my brain off and just go, right, how fast can we go down this nadgery little back road in an island somewhere or in Mexico or wherever I'm going? And yeah. And I love it because it's a complete disconnect from normal life, basically.
It is. You get in this, like, it's almost like you're in a different planet and world when you're in that zone, right? It's hard to explain to people. And I noticed in the background there, you got Closer to the Edge TT poster right there, which is, dude, if nobody's seen Closer to the Edge, again, I don't know what you guys are doing. You need to get off of this podcast right now and go find it and watch it because it's absolutely amazing.
There's a bit of a story to that as well. Of I knew one of the producers, or know one of the producers, knew one of the producers, and it was a bit of a fluke that when they red flagged it for Guy's crash towards the end, no spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, but was a few years ago. Guy crashed just as I was coming into pit lane, so they red flag it in pit lane. So literally, we rode through pit lane and come back to the return road. So I was one of the first bikes back in the holding area. And so the camera crew just basically, because I knew one of the producers went, "Oh, Dave can say something." So I get this big cinema camera stuck at me, and I'm like, rabbit in the headlights. And so I've wobbled on for 30 seconds, and they trimmed it down to about 5 seconds. But technically, I'm a film star.
Yes, you are. You're an absolute film star, TT legend. You started Did you start Obsession Engineering?
Yes.
Yes. And Rapid Honda and BSB. Man, we got a lot still to talk about. Absolutely. So I want to get to a comment. A buddy of mine, John Elliott, his son Crease Elliott, absolutely, dude, he's an up and coming legend out here. He said, "What's up, John? How you doing, man?" And then I got a friend, Cora. She's a legend. She's a female racer. She's a absolute honor to have her as a friend too. She says the TT is awesome. Yes,
and Corey, you are right. The TT is awesome.
Yes, yes,
This
it
is
is.
it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
And I
riding
get
motorbikes is always awesome. Riding motorbikes around the Isle of Man is even more awesome.
absolutely it is, right? And so my question to you, Dave, is the Dakar ever been on your radar?
I owned a car once.
The Dakar. Sorry.
Yeah, Dakar. No,
Yeah, the Dakar.
yeah, no. I'm not good on a dirt bike. I think especially with dirt bikes, it's if you've grown up with them, then that gives you such a big advantage because the fact they're moving around and sliding and all the rest of it becomes ingrained in you when you're young. I think it's the usual. It's difficult to learn the skills later. Like I started riding on tarmac fairly late, and I know compared to the people I know who started younger, like the Neve boys, it's like they were just messing around basically little bikes in farmyards and stuff, but it gave them that little step up. But I think with dirt bikes, it's if you're riding them at 4 year old, you're going to be mega on them. And it's like I'll watch like Hillier, James Hillier, when he did Dakar, and you just went, it blew my mind a little bit that somebody I know is doing this massive event, and you go, he can do the TT and be on the he's won TT, and he can race the Dakar, and you go, is there anything this bloke can't do on a motorbike? It's just, yeah, he can just do it because he's grown up on dirt bikes and then converted to tarmac. But I'd be terrible at Dakar. I would fall off in about the first 30 yards.
Oh, but it is, dude. The car is a lot like the Dakar, right? Yeah, just us Americans, man. Yeah, I have a car. What are you talking about, mate? Yeah, that's awesome. It is. It's one of those races. It's like the TT. It's the pinnacle of off-road racing for real. And I love that they got so many classes too. You know, cars and bikes and trucks.
Yeah, because I think when James did it, he did the Motul like Mavericks or whatever. I can't remember what they call it, but it's like you don't even get support crew. It's like somebody literally takes your tent to the next pit stop or whatever, and you've got to fix your own bike, do all your own prep, do all your own like race your motorbike yourself, and you go, like, just prepping your bike is half the night's job because it's like the punishment they must go through. And I just think the fact that he's done the hardest version of it on his first attempt as well, you think, yeah, that's hardcore. That is.
He's a legend. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, and he's also one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And he's like, yeah, he's got a package.
I didn't have the honor to meet him at Cadwell. I'm trying to remember if he was even at Cadwell last year for BSB. I can't remember seeing
Probably not. He doesn't do many of the BSB stuff anymore.
Yeah, I didn't. And I was disappointed because, of course, I'm a huge Davey Todd fan, right? And I found out that was when I guess he had signed for a Milwaukee BMW and they weren't going to be there that weekend. So I was like, oh, man, this, I really wanted to meet him, But so anyway, my good mate Dave Neal, Off Track Podcast.
Yeah.
He hooked me up with Christy from Chester Kawasaki team.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know what you mean. Cheshire Moldings.
Yes, Cheshire Moldings. Yes. Again, us Americans, right? We own our pronunciation. But so I'm sitting there on the grid, waiting to get out there for the grid walk for the Superbike race. And my buddy Dave, who's standing right beside me, he says, Simcoe, turn around. Davey Todd standing right behind you. I look at him. I said, "Shut up, man! Quit playing with me, man! Like, come on, because that's all I talked about. Dude, I can't wait to meet Davey Todd, Peter Hickman, blah blah blah." I turn around. Long and behold, Davey Todd. And dude, as soon as I turn around, I was like, "Bro, Dave, what is up?" And he's like, "Holy shit, dude!" Like, just because, who is this guy? I was like, Simcoe from Pin the Gas Podcast, because we talk back and forth. He's like, "Oh man, what's going on, boy?" He's like, "Dude, your energy is just like intense." It was. So
he's a cool kid.
He is absolutely cool. I was talking about PlayStation and just all kinds. So when I meet legends and riders, I don't typically talk about the track. Like, I'm like, "Hey mate, what's for dinner tonight?" Right? Like, what would you recommend food wise?
You want to know the person.
I want to know the person, not what you do on the track, because obviously I know all about it, but I want to get to know you as a person, man. And I think that it throws them off because there's not many fans that come up to him talking about what's for dinner. Are you PlayStation, Xbox guy? What Netflix series are you binge watching? All this stuff, and they just look at you like he really wants to have a genuine conversation with me, right? So.
Yeah, and especially doing grid walks and stuff like that, he'll be used to loads of people knowing who he is and just they want a selfie or something, and You know,
Yeah.
how do you think you'll go TT next year or whatever? There'll be the standard questions, won't there? So
Yeah.
you throw a curveball in there, just get him on his back foot straight away.
Get them right away, right? Like it's
Yeah.
let's do it. But yeah, dude, it was awesome. So listen, going from the TT BSB obsession engineering, how did all that start?
Right. So years ago, basically, I used to work for Siemens doing industrial gas turbine service, offshore oil and gas industry, that sort of thing. Weirdly, I went on a service job offshore Libya, and while I was there, they offered me a job. This is a convoluted version of how we got to obsession engineering. So I go offshore Libya. They offer me a job. So quit Siemens, start working with the Libyans. I've got a contract somewhere in a drawer that still has Libya literally every sentence. And you look back at it and go, was this a good idea? But they paid well. So it paid for some motorbike racing. So I went and worked for the Libyans. 6 months later, they have the revolution. So all of a sudden, I'm out of a job again. And I just start contracting. But back then, especially, it was better to be a limited company. So I started a limited company and I just called it David Hewson Limited. It was the dullest title ever because it only went on an invoice. Then I twigged you can lose some tax deals basically by putting your name on your motorbike and promoting yourself. And so then I had that moment where I was like, I need a better name if this is going to be stuck on the side of my motorbike. And one of the magazines one of the bike magazines back home had like an obsession build thing, and they called it like the obsession build or something. And I ended up with one of my bikes in it and just went, oh, obsession engineering is a cooler name. So then that got planted on that. And I started building engines and bits for people as a sideline when I wasn't away working. Because I used to basically just work 6 months and have 6 months off to go racing. And in that 6 months off, I do, well, if he's willing to pay me a bit to build an engine, I'll do a bit of that. And so over the years, the bike stuff got bigger and bigger. And the turbine work got less and less reliable. And eventually I just went, oh, well, we'll sort that off and just build motorbikes and engines and suspension. And I wanted to get to the point where I could build, if I got a motorbike, I could do every single nut and bolt bit of it myself because I didn't want to have to farm stuff out because that's just faff. And I like the idea I can take everything apart and build it myself. So I've now got to the point where pretty much can take the whole thing apart and put it back together, every nut and bolt, fork cartridges, shocks, engines. The electronics are a bit of a minefield still. That's not my specialty. But if it's mechanical, I can do it, basically. And then, when just before COVID kicked off, or right when it did, I'd just been sat one evening and I was a bit bored and I was cruising eBay and bid on a yellow Ducati. And next thing I know, the next morning you go, oh, I've won this Ducati and it's 300 miles away or whatever, which for us is a long way. For you, it's next door. And it's like, but it was cheap enough. So I went and bought this thing and just went, I might video this. So I just started literally doing videos on my phone. Did this Ducati like restoration project, put it on YouTube thinking nobody will watch it. Then get a message that the first episode had 40,000 people watch it or whatever, and I could monetize my channel and I started doing that. I think I was like, I could actually make some money off this. And now I do video projects. I record a lot of the stuff at BSB. We just do behind the scenes stuff all the time, and it's grown, and I quite enjoy it just because, I can take my brain out and edit videos up and basically talk nonsense, and people can't talk back. It's great.
I love it, man. I'm a huge fan. I like him subscribe to your YouTube channel. What got me really interested in it, obviously, is I'm a fan of yours, but my love for the RC51, right? And I watched, and I'm a big Ducati guy too, and I'd watched some of yours, and I was on YouTube just looking up RC51, and you pop up, and I was like, okay, I have got to watch this, right? And you go through the whole thing, and restore it, not from top to bottom, but you get it secondhand, and it's a beautiful bike.
They're cool, yeah.
So how do you like the RC51? Was that always been one of your dream bikes, or?
Weirdly, I sort of grew up having worked at a Ducati and Aprilia place when I was a teenager. I grew up with this love of Ducatis and Aprilias. The Italian stuff I've always kind of liked. Sometimes because it's interesting engineering. They find different solutions. The Japanese stuff's always very sensible, but the Italians sort of do what they think they like on a Friday afternoon, not what it actually makes sense. And when I got into watching motorbike racing, it was Carl Fogarty and then Troy Bayliss and Colin Edwards. And of course, Colin Edwards on an SP1, then an SP2, Joey Dunlop on an SP1. And it's like, these guys made that bike iconic. And to me as well, the fact that Honda, who were a very proud company, actually basically admitted that the Italians were doing it better and built a bike. They built a Ducati better than Ducati were building them at the time. And you go, that is a lot of engineering gone into that. And you'll work on the bikes and they're so well thought out and they put so much effort into them. And they're just cool. And you ride it and it's a lot like riding a Ducati. You get this whole V-twin sort of idea and you get the feel for it. But the difference is it actually starts and you don't have to service it every fortnight. And everything just works because it's Honda. And yeah, they're really cool bikes. And I was riding mine the other week and down to like little back road near mine. And, you know, he's wheeling over crests in fourth gear and doing little jumps and stuff. And you kind of go, yeah, this is meant to be a classic bike nowadays. And it can still hustle.
Oh yeah, it can, and a lot of people don't know the history. Like you said, you know, Honda got tired of getting beat by the RC45, which was a V4, and they solely built that bike, and they got together with HRC to design it and the whole nine, solely to beat Ducati at their own game.
And the thing for me as well is, like RC30s and RC45s are big money nowadays, whereas an RC51 or an SP1, as we call it, like they're not big money, and they sold quite a lot of them. But it's the last proper HRC road bike because everything after that was converted Fireblades.
Yeah.
Whereas that bike was designed by HRC to win races, and then they put some lights on it, which is just cooler.
It is. It's like if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. It's one of the only Hondas that's actually stamped on the side cases HRC.
Yes.
Yes.
Because all the road bikes, Fireblades, and all the rest of it, they'd never do that because it's not a. It was because they're Honda, not HRC. So it's got to be it's got to be an RC designated bike, and yeah, that's just cool, isn't it?
Dude, yeah, it's like we're part of this exclusive club, right? It's
oh yeah.
And every time I take mine out, dude, I got people that stop and all the time they're like, dude, and some people that are new to bikes, they have no idea. I've never seen it before. You know, what is this thing? Because
it's just an old Honda. Yeah,
it's just an old Honda. That's what I say. It's an RC51 old Honda. They're like, what? And I'm like, this is a 2003. Like I bought mine, I want to say 5-6 months ago. It's a 03. It had 15,400 and something miles on it. Original
just ran
OEM. In. Just ran in. And yeah, man, I love riding it, right? But it's the heat underneath your legs. It gets hot in city traffic. It's not fun in city traffic. It's obviously track oriented, but when you get on the back roads and you can have a little fun, it all makes sense, right?
Yeah, and the weirdness with them is they're not that fast for a modern bike.
No.
But if you keep them revving, and they actually like to rev a bit, don't they? It's like you want to keep them buzzing, and it's like those things can still hustle around. I'd much rather ride one of those and like an equivalent year Fireblade. It's just like, it does the same thing a modern bike does, just not as well. Whereas you ride an SP1 or whatever, and it's just, it's more of an experience.
And the Fireblades, they lack character versus the RC51, right? You feel special. It's just like the Ducatis in the Aprilias. When you sit on them and you ride them, you feel special. You feel fast. You feel this euphoria just because of what it is, right? Same thing. So I want to get to two more questions right here. We have Peter Marsh, RD Racing. His son Jake Marsh races. He says, "Evening, guys. Great to see the legend Dave on. Watch this guy so much building Jake's Fireblade. I didn't know you built my mate Jake's Fireblade." He says, "Hi, Dave. Such a lovely guy. Always says hello to me at BSB, even though he don't know how I am, or maybe he meant to put who he is."
Yes. Hi, Peter. And weirdly, the name rings a bell, so I probably actually do know who you are. But I am terrible with names and faces. It's like half the time I'll recognize a face, but I've got no idea who the person is or the name is, or you know the name but not the or you don't put the two together, and it's like I'm just a bit like that. But hi, Peter.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I'm great with faces so bad with names, bro. Like I'll see him,
Oh,
I'm like,
horrendous.
hey man, what's going on? This is my way around it, Dave. This is how I do it. So I'll be out with my wife somewhere and I'll see somebody. They're like, oh, Simcoe, what's going on? I'm like, what's up, man? How you been? Hey, this is my wife, Nikki. Nikki, this is. And then it forces you to say, oh, I'm Roger, right? And you're like, oh, yeah, his name is Roger. What's up, dude? You know, so it's,
Yeah, got out of that one. Yeah.
Ooh, I snaggled my way out of that one, right?
Yeah. That's it. Or you get to the end of a 5-minute conversation with them, and the person you stood with, why aren't you going to introduce me? And like, no, because I really can't remember what their name is. And I've known them for 5 years, and now it's just awkward.
That was just awkward, right? You got to find a way to get out of that awkwardness, right? Yeah.
So, oh God,
Pete says no. He watched Dave's videos on how to build his bike, so he got the advice from you watching your videos and built his 20. I think he's got a 2024 or 2025.
Oh yeah. He's watched me build the Franco fire blades.
Francos,
use that. Yeah. I get that a few times. Interesting. I've had that off a few people who actually know how to build bikes. Have still watched them and gone, he does it that way. I mean, they probably do it better, but you know, it's the oddity of occasionally having other people in the paddock going, oh yeah, I used your video before I built so and so. And like, really? You're like, could you not work out a better way of doing that?
You listen to me? What?
Yeah.
Are you sure about this?
You got insomnia?
Right. Oh my God. And then so a good buddy of mine, Jeff Tate, he races a Honda CBR 1000, a 24, I think out here. He actually says Dave has helped me through emails with some HRC questions last year. Thank you so much.
Yeah, help Jeff. With some of the mapping stuff for the super stock bikes. Yeah, which is once you get into it, they're really, really good. But if the instruction manual only tells you so much. So hopefully Jeff's going fast on that thing now.
Dude, he's devastatingly fast on it for sure.
Cool.
So, dude, BSB.
Yes.
Honda team. Yeah. Talk to me about how all this come together in the 2024 season. Of course, I'm a huge fan of BSB, so I watch every season. And of course, I know all about your guys' season. But in your own opinion, how did your 2024 season go, and what's in store for 2025?
24 season. We learned a lot really fast. The background to people who don't know the team setup. I only started working back in the BSB paddock 4 years ago, helping out some local lads, the True Love Brothers, and then via Pete Boast, who runs Champions Flat Track School, and Pete's awesome. A proper legend.
Yes, he is.
But yeah, if you want to know meter man who's ridden everything and fast, Pete's your man. So I should go flat tracking up at Pete's place up at Champions Flat Track School. I ended up I worked for the True Love for a year and then basically needed a job. Mentioned it to a few people, and Pete goes, "Oh, we need a mechanic for Franco." So I ended up working with Franco Bourne. We're doing stock 600, and Pete's mega. Pete is one of the best rider coaches you'll ever meet, just because he understands how people ride bikes so well. He'll go and watch people in so much detail, and he spots stuff I'd never see. But I'm much better at fiddling with motorbikes. So I turned up, and on the first test day, we've changing shock lengths and fork springs and all sorts, and made the package a bit better. And then the first meeting we had with Franco on that bike, he won at the first round. We ended up second in the championship, won a few races during the year. And we just, basically it was us and Max Cook. And Max then obviously went straight to Superbike. So we then went Super Stock 1000, built a Honda for Franco. He won on his first meeting at that as well. Second in the first race, won the second one, which slightly surprised all of us lot as well. And we're like, we knew he's good. And then when he does that, you just go, righto, that changes the field. We're thinking we've got a year to learn. And then he wins the first meeting. You go, right, we're into the everybody's looking at us phase. So I'd gone from basically working out how a ZX6 works, which is a pretty simple beast, to then a stock 1000 Fireblade, which is a bit more complicated, but once you get them in a window, they're pretty good. And then team boss Matt turns around and goes, oh, should we do the last 2 rounds of the year as a pathway superbike? So convert this superbike, our stocker, put some Motec on it and a different clutch in it and a softer rear tire, and that's your superbike. And we went, all of a sudden, I'm going to be like mechanic at BSB. And then we had a good couple of rounds. And then we ended up with we were talking about, do we do pathway for 2024? And we sort of all sat down and went, well, it doesn't matter how good you are on a pathway bike, unless it's iffy conditions, you're going to struggle to be top 15. Top 10's a real struggle because the bike's just that bit down on spec. So we went, well, the running costs are very similar. Let's just go full superbike. And this is Team Boss Matt, who is really quite a quiet guy. And every now and again just turns around and shall we go full superbike? And you're like, that's elevated things. So yeah, we then all of a sudden had to learn how to set a superbike up, which is a completely different thing to a stocker. They look the same, but as soon as you've got like offset adjustment in your yokes, linkage differences, swinging arms, brakes, tires, everything changes, and the electronics change because you've got no traction, no anti-wheel, none of that stuff. Luckily, we got a lot of help from Honda. The guys at Honda Racing are only half an hour up the road from us, and they've looked after us incredibly well. So we got a lot of support from Honda. We got some good equipment off them at the start of the year. Our bike was a good spec. But it took us a few meetings to work out, for us as a team and me especially, to work out how to get anywhere near the potential of the bike. So the first half of the year, it was probably up until like Snetterton, we really got the bike working how Franco needed it. And after that, we started to get some decent results. And then, unfortunately, Franco fell off at Thruxton, and it was a fast crash. And he broke his scaphoid and beat himself up fairly bad and hit his head fairly hard. So then he was out for a bit. So we got Tom Ward on the bike. Wardy. Yeah. Wardy's a mega lad. World Endurance. He's been on the podium at World Endurance, done Superbike and Superstock bits before. Really, really cool lad to work with. Nicest guy in the paddock, sort of thing. And just like absolute pleasure to work with him. But he rides really quite differently to Franco. And so all of a sudden we had to work differently and had to learn a whole world of stuff on the engine brake side of bits where, like Franco, brakes, so he does all his braking with the front brake, barely touches the back on the way to corners. And so all you concentrate on is getting the front of the bike to work for him, and then he can ride the rest. Whereas Tom likes the back of the bike to do a lot of the work because he's a supermoto boy. And so we spent a lot of time then working the chassis differently and trying to get the engine brake to work. And we got somewhere near, well, Cadwell went all right. Struggled a bit at Donington with him. And then it all ended up with one of his sponsors didn't want to ride the superbike at Brands at the end of the year. Franco was still injured. And weirdly, we got to the last round of the year and went, I haven't got a rider. And that was a bit odd because we sort of felt like we put a lot of effort into the year and we sort of finished a bit prematurely. So, yeah, it was a bit odd. And then, of course, we're going around the paddock trying to work out what we're doing for the next year, which is, yeah, the continuation of Rapid Honda, but different because we're going Super Sport with Hondas instead of Superbike with two new riders. We've decided with Franco I think we'd felt we got to as far as we could get with Franco. And so, yeah, he's hopefully got a good ride sorted. And we're going in. We've basically picked up two young riders who are exciting and fast. And yeah, we've got to go and build something with them now.
I know who they are. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Owen Jenner, who's won. He won GP2 Championship this year. Yes, he won Stock 600 the year before, and a couple of years before that won Junior Super Sport. So he's fast. He's a good character. He's lively. So it's going to be a different nature in the pit garage with him, I think. And then we've got Harley McCabe, who's won at British Talent Cup this year. Young lad. I'm not sure if he's even 16 yet, but he is polite. He's quite quiet, but he is fast. And he goes boxing. He's started boxing. You look at him and he's quite skinny and he's growing fast. And then it turns out he's been going boxing training and he had his first fight the other week and he turned up at the team dinner at the end of the year with a black eye because while he was meant to be sparring, somebody clocked him by accident. And yeah, so yeah, it's going to be a whole nother year of learning. I've basically done what is this, 4 or 5 years now, and every year I've had to learn something different, which is great because
Yes.
yeah, it's new skills and all the rest of it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm
Yeah, it's gonna
looking
be good fun.
forward to it, man, for sure. I'm a huge fan. Like I said, I'm gonna be cheering you guys on. It's gonna be it's the journey, you know, and 600 super sports cheaper, obviously, than super stock and all that, and the machines
Yeah,
is
it's
easier to work on,
it's a bit
not
the
so
super
complicated.
sports.
Yeah,
Yeah, super sport. We were discussing this before we got going. Super sport, because it's now this next generation super sport. It's had this weird, awkward birthing to get to next generation. So you'll get guys on V2 Ducatis, which are 959cc, racing a guy on a 600 Honda, and you go, these things shouldn't be the same. But there's balancing rules with ECUs and throttles and stuff like that to make them relatively even. And yeah, it's an odd class. But at the moment, if you want to go to World Championship from British Championship, superbikes, our superbikes now are really quite different to a world superbike. The electronics are different, the engine specs are different. And so it's really difficult to go from BSB to world superbike. But to go from next generation supersport in Britain to next generation supersport in world, they're the same bikes. The regulations are the same. So if you can win at British Championship on a supersport bike, there's no reason why you can't jump on a world championship bike and be fast straight away. So that's now the stepping stone really to world championship from UK. So hopefully we can get our young lads in the spotlight a bit and see if we can get them up onto the world stage, which would be pretty cool.
Listen, I agree 110%. You know, I've had this conversation with another buddy of mine. I'm like, look, dude, if you want to get to, you know, it's easier coming from super sport, going to world superbike and making that transition versus superbike or super stock, right? Because the rules are different, the electronics difference hits. Our mate Bradley Ray, right? He was there for 2 years. Yes, he was not on the best Yamaha. Yes, he didn't get a whole lot of updates, but there was so much thrown at him with the electronic side of things that it takes a while to get used to it, the tracks, the tires, yada yada yada. Right now, we got Ryan Vickers. He's there with Ducati coming up in 2025. But it's not an easy transition, right? And I hope that he gets on fairly well. And a lot of people don't understand too, Dave, that it's you could be Valentino Rossi, but if you're in an environment that don't believe in you, right, and don't listen to you, then you lose all this self-confidence. Hence Valentino at Ducati, they wouldn't listen to him. He lost all this confidence, right? And look, it did his head completely in, right? It took him to 2013 to get back to Yamaha, but shit, it took him till Assen, which was the 7th round, to freaking win again. Right. So it's, and then when he come back, Yamaha didn't believe in him anymore because he left. So that was kind of broken. He wasn't the number one rider no more. Lorenzo was. And there's so many factors that go into it. It's not as simple as, oh, Dave Hewson won on an Aprilia. Now we're going to throw him on a freaking Norton rotary and see what happens, right? You can get on it and be like, it's so different, you know?
And it's,
go ahead, Dave.
Sorry. Yeah. It's motorbike racing to me, it's still like you have this thing. You watch F1 and it's like it's 80% the car and 20% the driver. It's like because you know the cars, how good the cars are. Because George Russell, when he jumped in a Mercedes when they were the fastest car, he jumped in it from being top 10 on a good day, and he was the fastest man out there. And he went, well, it's clearly the car. With bikes, it's still much more the rider. Marquez will prove that every time. The amount of times he won on a bike that nobody else could get near it. Casey Stoner. The absolute best riders will make a bike go faster than it probably should go. And you sometimes you get there and you go, but it's the mental strength as well. It's like it's 80% rider, 20% bike, but within the rider, it's 80% in your head. And the amount of riders over the years who've been fast, moved bikes or moved teams or something, some stuff doesn't click, and they lose that little bit of either a little bit of confidence or that ability to like that trust that they can really do what they need to do. Then they move back to another team and go, yeah, it might take a few rounds or a year or whatever, but the fast guys don't forget how to ride fast. They just need the right environment to do it in. Yep. And so that's half the thing when you're running a team of you've got to have the right people doing the right thing in the team, and you've got to listen to the rider, which at some point as mechanics or crew chiefs or whatever, everybody has a moment where they don't listen to the rider and they look at the data and go, I think we can do this. And then you have the realization when you actually listen to the rider and they go fast and you go, right, we'll listen to the rider. Because if in the words of Joe Burgess, if your rider wants gold handlebars, you give them gold handlebars because then it's up to them.
It's all
and it is
right?
pretty accurate.
No, it is absolutely. And Dave, that brings me to a question for you, man. You growing up racing and riding, you know, everybody has their own proper way of getting mentally prepared for, I call it for battle, right? Like where Leonidas is going out to battle all the Persians, right? You're Leonidas out there battling whatever 30 Persians out there on a track. How do you mentally prepare for a race? And do you have any like superstitions, like I got to do my left boot on before my right boot or anything like that?
No, I'm not superstitious. Every time I go to the Isle of Man, I go and see the fairies because my classic racing mate Alan, as he pointed out, you might not be superstitious, but it might be the cheapest insurance you have to buy. So you go and have a chat with the fairies, and that just in the back of your head, you've been to see the fairies; they're going to look after you, so you're going to be okay. But no, I like things to be in order and be organised because I don't like rushing around last minute, especially on a race weekend. And when I've been the rider and my mechanic and I've been shouting stuff and race days, everybody gets stressed. I have a bit of a tendency to shout a little bit. I got nicknamed Princess a bit occasionally. But I pointed out, don't call me Princess during racing because I'll just get grumpy. Call it me at the end of the day and it'll be fine because the stress is gone. But I was always a bit like, I'd know stuff has been done, but I'd get up on Glen Crutchery Road or whatever, and I'd say to my mechanics like, "Have we done the tire pressures? Yeah. Have you checked this? Yeah. Have you done that?" And then I'd end up going around looking at stuff myself. And as I said to them, I went, "It's not that I don't think you've done it, but I'm sat on it. So it's like if I've seen it's done, then it's that box ticked in my head. And also, if I've checked the brake calipers and I know they're done and lock wired, if something fails on the bike and I have an accident, you know I've checked it. So it's also that it takes the stress off them, hopefully. And so to me, there's no real, not other than the fairies, there's no real superstitions. It was just, I just want everything organised. And as early as you can, because you don't want to be rushing around last minute.
No, so, and it's for your own peace of mind, right? 100%. You know, everybody, I hear the question all the time on all the podcasts with TT riders, the hand on the shoulder, the takeoff. I'm not going to ask you that because you already answered that question. You guys need to go back and watch TT Plus to hear that, right? But
yes,
I want to ask you maybe the emotions, the first time, the first lap of the first race of your TT. What was that experience like?
The first lap beyond the travelling marshal always stands out because you've done all your homework and then you have to go and ride and you do your first lap behind a travelling marshal. And the oddity with the travelling marshals is they're fast. They're all ex-racers. And I don't know who it was I was following. They're on a VFR 800. And I think he touched the brakes 3 times in a lap. And he was probably lapping at 100 mile an hour. Because it's just they just roll off and chuck the thing in and they know the line. And I found it really awkward following somebody because you've done all your onboards and all your learning with the road empty in front of you. And then all of a sudden you've got to watch this bloke riding around and he's in the way. And then I found like the first lap, I found it like quite awkward. And I come back and everybody's, "Oh, how was that?" And you go in, I think it was awesome, but I'm not sure yet because there's a lot to take in. And then you go out, like literally splash some fuel in it, clean your visor, go back out for a proper lap. And of course, by the time I go back out, the fast boys are coming through. And I can remember getting Ginger Hall to Ramsey down like Glen Tramman, and the road's bumpy, and I'm holding on, and I'm trying to hold on as much as I can, and trying to get to 6th gear and hold the throttle open. And Guy Martin come past one side, and Finnegan come past the other because they were playing with each other. Sounds wrong. But those two come past, and luckily Guy come past without that far of one handlebar. And luckily, because you motorbike races, you're kind of used to people being close to you, so you don't react. And luckily, because Finnegan come past the other side about the same distance. So if I'd have moved, I'd have collected Finnegan, and that would have been bad news because he was a big lad. But yeah, they come past, and you have that realization, a bit like Jason Holland riding around me at Snetterton, of going, I think I'm going fast here, but I'm not. Because these boys are night and day. They're 30 or 40 mile an hour quicker, and it was a different world. And then you sort of go, but I am racing TT, and I'll just get Guy Martin come past me. So it's going okay. Yeah, my first race was because I went straight into Superbike. I took my Superstock ZX10, went straight to Superbike. So my first TT race was first Superbike race, Centenary TT 2007. The race that John McGuinness broke the 130 lap record in. Then he lapped me because I think I'd started 85th on the road or something. He lapped me when I'd just come out of the pits and I'm going over Aggo's Leap and John McGuinness jumped past me over Aggo's Leap. And you don't forget that. And it's just like, yeah, this is pretty cool. This is, yeah. This is like everybody else watches John McGuinness from the hedgerows or the TV, and I'm watching John McGuinness there. And
Dude,
that's pretty good.
It being out there with the legends, man. Dude, I'm a huge John McGuinness, Guy Martin. Dude, I can go on and on about the TT, man. I freaking love the TT. I could talk about it all day, really. Actually, I have a question. I have a question for all my friends that really love the TT for you. So we'll get into that here in a minute. Peter Marsh, my man Pete, he says that he would love to send you his son Jake's Marsh's data from his big crash on the Fireblade to see your thoughts on it, as it's still a mystery of because I can't figure it out from the data.
Yeah, if you can't, because my email address is generally hidden in most places. If you go on the Obsession Engineering website, there's a contact form. Drop me a message on there with an email address. Swap email addresses. Send me the data. We'll have a look.
There you go, Pete. Absolute legend, man. Dave's a freaking legend. I love it. Yeah, being on track with Martin and all them. And again, you said, Joey Dunlop, last race ever win, SP1. Yeah, the SP1. And then now his son, Joey, his
nephews.
That's Joey's uncle. Yeah, his nephew. I'm not good with the whole thing, right?
Sam, so, Joey's lad Sam did race TT. They definitely raced the Manx. I think he raced TT.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Robert's lads who were the fast ones, basically. Yeah. No offense to Sam. I mean, he was quick, but different level. Yeah,
absolutely different. And it's I never thought in our lifetime we would see somebody beat Joey Dunlop's record at the TT, right? And
yeah,
and we have, which is absolute. And I honestly, Dave, I personally thought, I was like, okay, I think once he wins it, he might just walk away and be done with it. But no, I think it sparked another fire inside of him, and I don't think Michael's going to stop anytime soon.
No, I think, and Michael's the other. But Michael is. Nobody really knows what Michael's thinking, because one day he might just go, "Oh no, I've had enough." But there's something with them Dunlop, the whole family of, like, they don't give up. And you're like, I remember the like TT press launch or whatever it was, and it was just after or the start of TT, whatever, just after Robert died at Northwest, and Michael turned up on a real like privateer. R1 at TT, and he said, "Well, it wouldn't be TT without a Dunlop here." And you think, "Yeah, it's as ingrained in them, I think, as the other way around."
Yeah.
So it was kind of like McGuinness got close; he got his 23 wins or whatever, and people did it. Oh, will he beat Joey? But the fact it was Michael who beat him, you go, yeah, fair play.
Absolutely right, and it stays within the family, which is just like,
yeah.
That's something that I don't think we're ever going to see again.
No, there's other families who you've got fathers and sons racing and bits like that, but the longevity they've had within that sport, and they've been so pivotal in it, you go, where else does that come from? You think it's such a niche thing, and them boys have grown up with it, and the problem now is, if you're an Irish road racer, going road racing in Ireland is nearly dead now, which is horrendous, really. Yeah, but it's made it more difficult for the Irish road racing guys to come through to TT, and because most of the front runners now at TT are like the BSB brigade, basically. So yeah, if you're Northern Irish or Irish and want to come and do it, then even getting to the stage where you'll get an entry, you've got to go and start doing BSB and bits like that, and it's difficult and expensive and time consuming, and it's another like blockage in the way for them. So Yeah.
It is. Dude, speaking of that, have you ever been or raced Estonia?
No, no, I didn't. I never did much of the like European road race stuff. I mean, I went and raced in Mexico, but that's Eric's fault. As mega as it was, yeah, Eric has some ideas, and Mexico was definitely one of them.
Yeah, and listen, big shout out to Eric, man, and thank you for reaching out to me, man. It's yeah, me and Dave's had a conversation about you before we started the podcast.
Yes, Eric is the reason that I do stupid stuff, and I
And we
can't
love
thank
you
him
for
enough
that, Eric. Yes, we
Oh,
love
yeah.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Eric is just the absolute legend that is Eric Wilson, who is, to anybody who doesn't know Eric, if you met him in the street, you would not think this man had done 122 mile an hour around the Isle of Man, and he's the fastest man in Mexico. And his idea to go and do Pikes Peak, but also ride his bike to Pikes Peak from New York, and then crash it, and then put it back together and still race it, and just when Eric gets his sights set on something, it doesn't matter how daft it is, he's doing it, and that is a lot of respect for that.
Absolutely, it is. Have you ever been interested in coming out here doing Pikes Peak?
I don't particularly like heights, if I'm honest. So I've ridden up Pikes Peak with Eric. And I was on a rented Harley, awful thing. And you ride up and there's no barriers, and you can see about 4,000 foot down.
Feet down, yeah.
No, I'm okay actually. I'm just I'm no, not for me.
I love it, man. I love it. It's them guys got balls. I actually had a friend that actually won a Pikes Peak race, Chris Lilligard, on a, I don't want to get this, on an MV Augusta.
Nice.
Yeah. He said it was one of the most insane things he's ever done in his life. I was like,
I said so,
yeah.
It's unique, that place.
Yeah. And a good mate of mine, Mark Miller, fastest American at the TT, right? Yeah.
Mark's a legend.
Absolute legend he is. That, and then my buddy Brandon Cretu, he raced the TT. Yeah, man, it's
Brandon's a cool kid.
I can't wait.
And of course, Rennie Skaysbrook, who won the last time bikes ran at Pikes Peak. He won that. And then he's been over at TT a bit, and he's done a couple of years there, and never quite got the team and the bikes and bits that he really needed to show his talent. But I still have the odd message forwards and backwards with him, because he still gets the TT bug. So, yeah.
And you actually are my friend Ricky K and Dave.
Yes.
Yep. I seen the YouTube video. I hit Dave up. I was like, bro, I just seen you on my buddy Dave's YouTube video. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, dude, you and Ricky K. Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on the time of day, is he sexy Dave or sweaty Dave? That's always the question.
That is I'm gonna write that down, because next time I see him, next time I talk to him, I'm like, dude, are you sweaty Dave? Are you sexy Dave? Let me write that.
He's normally he's sexy Dave until he puts his leathers on, and then that lad can perspire. So yeah.
Sexy Dave or sweaty Dave. That's awesome. When we get done with this, I'm gonna hit him up and be like, are you sweaty Dave or sexy Dave today?
If anybody watching this, if you ever do one of the carters at the track training days, there's a good chance you'll have Dave Thomas coaching you. Just ask him if he's sweaty Dave, because he gets paranoid about that sort of thing.
He does. We chat back and forth, me, him, and Ricky K quite often. They're absolute legends in my eye too.
Oh, completely, yeah. And like Ricky, especially this year, turned up at the Manx again this year, got very little practice time, and just stepped it up again. His first year, he was, it's pretty steady. He was consistent, smooth, all the rest. And then the last couple of years, he's just, he stepped his speeds up, and he's a quick rider around there now. Yeah.
Do you know my other mate that raced the Manx is Adam Bauer?
I know of him, but I don't really know him.
Okay,
so, yeah. One of those names that I wouldn't be able to put a face to, because I'm terrible with names and faces.
Yeah, dude, he's awesome. He sent me, when we become friends, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go out here and race. I was like, what? No, shut up, dude. That's awesome, man. He showed me all these pictures. I was like, bro, you're a freaking legend. No, I'm not. I'm like, oh, yes, you are, bro.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you are. Well, listen, Dave, we're an hour and 20 into this. I want to transition.
It flies by, doesn't it?
Dude, it does. We have so much fun. I didn't even plan on going this long, but here we are, right? I definitely want to sit down with you and definitely do a part 2 with you. But before we get off here, Dave, I have a couple personal questions that I love to ask all my friends that come on here, so that people that know of you or know who you are get to know you outside of racing and all that stuff, right? So
Of course.
the first question I have for you, mate, is what's for dinner tonight?
I'm probably going to do a salmon stir fry. I'm trying to be good at the moment. Having not raced TT this year, I sort of lost my focus on fitness, and we're flat out with the superbike and stuff, and I let myself go a little bit. I wasn't bad, but I'm trying to get back on form, so I'm back in the gym and back training, and salmon stir fry is healthy, so
it is, right? Yeah, I changed my diet up too, man. A lot of people didn't see. I didn't start this podcast until I lost a lot of weight. But dude, I was like 270 pounds in a 40 waist. I'm in a 34 waist now, and I weighed myself the other day when I went to the doctor. Right, I weighed 210 pounds. My goal is to get down to like 190, 195.
You have a target in life.
I do, but I think if I got any skinnier than that, I'd look like an anorexic, like kind of just freaking nature, right? So I don't want to get too skinny, but yeah.
I kind of hover around the same 2 kilogram mark, and it's like if I get to like the top end of that, it's like, right, we need to start doing more cardio.
Yeah, that's a big one too. Is cardio. So I do that, and I love ice baths, so I do a lot of those too as well. So
are you a lunatic? Just like, don't be wrong, I'd sometimes turn my shower down low, cold, because I'm tight and don't want to spend money on hot water. It's meant to be good for me. I'm not convinced, because you just shiver a lot. But it might be doing me some good.
Dave called me a lunatic. That's an honor, man. No, you're the lunatic, ETT and all that, right? No, it's. But to me, man, it's once you do it, the trick of it is to submerge your whole body, get up to your neck. Yeah. You control your breathing, then you're not cold no more. You get out. There's a lot of health benefits to it, and blah blah blah. But it's like one of those things that once you start doing it, Dave, your body craves it. It's weird. It's weird to explain. But yeah, it's good, man. It's good stuff.
I don't look good in an ice bath. I'm not well insulated.
I don't look good in an ice bath neither until I get my breath under control. My wife's looking at me like, you're fucking goofy. That's what she says. And I'm like, just a little bit, but that's why you love me, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. If you were boring, it wouldn't be the same.
Right? Are you a pet person? Does Dave have any animals?
I spend a lot of my time not at home. So I'm not. As kids, we had a cat. I respect the psychopath element in cats. I find, dogs are needy. And I have a bit of a thing where if you have to clean up its poo, it's in charge. You see, a cat will go and bury it out the way, generally next door neighbour's garden. And I respect that. But if I have to pick up poo, somehow, we're not at the top of the food chain anymore. And so that's where I draw the line. If there's an animal and I have to pick up its poo, not interested.
I love it, dude. I never looked at it that way, but yeah, I got 2 psychopath cats, exactly as you said, nail on the head. And I got a dog. She's actually outside my door right now. I try to get her to come in here with me. She usually is, but she's old, man. She's a 13-year-old purebred pit bull, and she gets around, but it's man. So
she's enjoying the quiet life.
She's enjoying the quiet life. Yes, she is. She's freaking spoiled rotten. I cook her home cooked meals for breakfast and dinner every day. She gets chicken, rice, and all that stuff. So,
yeah. She'll be having salmon tonight.
She would be having salmon tonight. Yes, she. I don't even know what I'm gonna do for dinner tonight. I got my wife came home early. She's actually getting her toes and nails done right now, and I've got to go to the store anyway. I'll figure out. I think because it's so cold, I might do some type of soup. Make a homemade soup or whatever.
Yeah. You see, soup is a starter, not a meal.
Well, see, us Americans, right? We make, of course, and this is the problem. Like one thing that I loved when I went to the UK, like I love to cook, home cook. I get that from my mom.
Yeah,
so I go to the grocery store a lot, right? So, of course, when I was there in Louth, right, and I didn't realize that I was. Real quick story. So I show up in Louth. That's where at Kinnick Park, right, where the golf court resort and all that is. So I wake up the next day. I knew Hickman's shop wasn't too far, and so I Googled, and HRC's right down the street, right?
Yeah.
So I called HRC, was like, "Hey, I'm Simcoe from America, Penny Gas. I want to come down. I just got here. I'd love to, come take a look around, buy a sweater, hat, or whatever." They're like, "Nope, you can't come here unless you're doing business." And I'm like, "But I am doing business. I want to buy a hat and a T-shirt." And she's like, "Nice try, but yeah, that's not." She said, "You can come by and look through the windows." I was like, "I'm good. I could
It's not quite the same.
Yeah, I can do it online too, right? Do the same
Yeah.
thing. And actually online I can get inside, right? Because you got pictures inside. But thank you for the hospitality. So call Peter Hickman up. He didn't answer the phone. I forget her name, answered the phone. I'm Simcoe from America. I just got here. I want to come down. She's like, holy shit, dude, your energy's like intense.
Yeah.
So I get there.
Have you had? Yeah.
Bro, I heard that the whole time I was there. So the cab comes, picks me up. I get there, I get out. As I pull in the parking lot, this guy runs out. He meets me. He's like, you must be Simcoe. I was like, I am. Woo, let's go. You know, he's like, oh my God. They didn't tell me Peter Hickman was standing inside. So as soon as I get in, I cut the corner. There's freaking the legend Peter Hickman with the 137 mile an hour freaking BMW. And I just like hit the floor, bow down. Like, dude, you're freaking.
Did you go full Wayne's World? Did you go full We Are Not Worthy?
Full Wayne's World, man. God. And actually, I took a picture of Peter Hickman. I'm probably one of the only people in the world that's got a picture of Peter Hickman actually doing work.
That is unusual. I mean,
unusual.
I've been to his place quite a lot of times, and I've never seen him doing any work.
I got pictures of Peter Hickman doing work, right? So yeah, it was just dude, that whole thing. So after I left there, that was that night. It was a Wednesday, so he moved to his new building, his first bike night, which I went back to. But before that, I was like, hey, I want to go to the grocery store, get some stuff, take it back to the hotel. I'm looking at all the ingredients on the food, right? And I Google image ingredients, the same thing, like nacho cheese chips or whatever, right? Now, dude, you guys have like 9 ingredients. We have like 400 ingredients in the same thing, right? And I'm like, no wonder why Americans are so fat. Plus, when my buddy Luca Allen came here to Mid-Ohio for the Moto America race, he went out to, I said, where'd you go last night to eat, mate? He said, Applebee's. He's like, I got a hamburger that was like this freaking big. And I got like 5 bites into it, and that was it, right? And I was like, yeah, that's one of the problems with us Americans is our portions are so big.
I'm going to put out there, a traditional English breakfast is not a healthy thing. But I can remember being on Route 66 and having chicken fried steak for breakfast. And that is a whole nother world of filth. It's like, firstly, it's called chicken fried steak and there's no chicken. That's just stupid. And then it comes and there's sides and there's bits and there's that. And this the other thing, one thing I do quite like in America, I will admit, is breakfast. I refer to as meat and sweet or sweet and meat. Because there's like, you know, you'll order like pancakes with bacon or something. And then there'll be a side of something really sweet to go with it. And you're like, this is awesome. It's like, it's mains and pudding for breakfast. Who doesn't want that? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some things you do really well, and sweet and meat, it's up there.
There you go. We do some good stuff, America. Sweet and meat. You heard it first. I love it, dude. But just don't eat the black. It's okay to eat white pudding and black pudding here in America, but not recommended when you go to the UK. But I'm the type of person where, like you said, hey, let's figure it out along the journey. You got to at least try it once, right? You never know. You might love it. But
just don't ask what's in it.
Yeah, I made the mistake after he was laughing at me, and I Googled it, and I was like, bro, you should have told me. He's like, why? You'd never tried it if I told you. And I was like, yeah, you got a good point. And then I remember I had my first proper fish and chips, which was my favorite food there. A little place in Louth. I can't remember the name. A buddy of mine, his friend owns it. And I remember I got in there and I always want to try mushy peas. Well, I got in there.
Oh, yeah. I love mushy peas.
Me too. There's like, I don't know, 10 people in this place. And I was like, yeah, let me get fish and chips. And can I get squishy peas? And everybody looked at me and started laughing, right? Because of my American accent. They're like, it's mushy peas. I was like, I'm sorry. I messed it up. I murdered it. I'm sorry. You guys know what I meant, right? And they're just laughing and clapping and all that good stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
My second question for you, the list is long, Dave, but I'm only going to give you 2 names to choose from, right? So in your personal opinion, who had the greatest TT ever comeback? Okay. Connor Cummings or Ian Hutchison?
Hutchie. I have massive respect for both of those boys because they probably shouldn't have been fixed enough to go back. And just the motivation to go back and be as fast as they are. But for me, the Hutchie one probably just pips it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. They're all, unique in their own individually. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Their cases, and it's just it's mega, man. So my second Ala man is what year and what track was the first ever Grand Prix race at, which is now MotoGP?
It's TT, and I believe it was 1947.
1949, but you were close. You're the only one that got it really close, man. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I knew it was 1940. I couldn't remember it was 47 or 49. I knew it wasn't 48, and I knew it was TT because it was like the World Championship that year was basically TT, and I can't remember whether there's even another track. And then the next year there might have been some, like Silverstone and somewhere else as well, and it was pretty small back then, wasn't it? But
yeah,
it grew pretty fast.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And my other one, this is a racing trivia question too. In 1961, Honda won their very first TT race. Who was the rider?
Ooh, that is a good question, and I don't know.
Mike the Bike Halewood.
Of course, it's the kind of thing I should know, but
yeah. To me, though, going back to who had the greatest TT comeback, like as far as injury way goes, man, there's so many, man. But you're right, Ian's one of the only ones to this day that's ever won 5 TTs in one week, right? Yeah. Which is insane. But Mike Halewood, go ahead.
No. So just you go 5 in a week when there was only 5 solo races,
right?
And it was one of those, like, half of it was just being consistent. He was there every time, and just like almost it wasn't the outright lap record speed. It was just the fact that he was in the fight every race, and on the last lap he'd just pull a bit more, and you went, yeah, fair play,
right? And Mike Halewood, to me, looking at everything, I think had probably the greatest TT ever come back. The only reason why I say that, yes, he didn't have injuries, dude. He left the TT and come back after 10 or 11 years and won the freaking TT. Like, who does that? I mean, the track evolved so much. You know, the one thing that stands out to me about even learning the TT is that every year things get added or taken away. Like somebody's house might have cut down this bush, or that bush is not there anymore. And that might have been one of your braking markers or your on throttle, points or whatever it is. Now it's not there no more, right? Now you got to pick a different one because you approach the corner thinking it's there, and you're like, oh shit, it's not there, and so leaving that long and coming back, it's just
that place constantly changes because it's so big. And it's like they'll even to the extent of like they'll resurface. Like a couple of years ago, they resurfaced like a 6-foot length on the way into the bottom of Begarin. They just took the little crest out because the year before Hillier had jumped the crest, hit the bottom of Begarin, broke his sump, and that could have been really bad. Yes. And luckily, it was all right. But they took the crest out, so you didn't jump as much. And all of a sudden, you could go like probably 10 mile an hour faster into the bottom of Begarin. But that changes the bottom of Garrett and the run all the way to the 13th because it changed your braking mark and stuff. And you go, yeah, you've got to recalibrate. And when you've done thousands of miles around there, they change that one bit and you go, right, now I've got to relearn that section. And it's, but every year something changes. And it just, that's why it's so cool.
It is.
Because it's the same, but it's different.
Absolutely. Dave, tell us something we don't know about Dave.
Ooh, that's the old now. What don't you know about me?
Yeah, what we don't know about you. Tell that very few people probably ever know about you.
Oh, that's an odd one, that isn't it? Because to be fair, I'm generally fairly open and honest on the channel and stuff like that. So, I'm just trying to think. What don't I know? What do I know about me? I'm a little bit lost because I don't even know where to start.
I bamboozled you over the question.
You have. Right, I'll give you one then. I have a scar on my forehead just there, which you can only just see. And I was 5 years old. And having repeatedly been told not to play on the swings at the bottom of the garden laid on my belly, because you lay on your belly, like basically jump on the swing and go forwards and backwards on your belly, and it felt faster because you were closer to the floor. And I've been told repeatedly not to do that. And of course, one day I run home from school, jump on that, straight over the top of it, crack my head open on the floor, blood everywhere, go running back into the house to your mum because you're 5, like holding your brains in. And my mum went, were you on the swing forwards? No. No, I tripped. And it's like, yeah, no. I mean, she knew I was lying, and I knew I was lying. But it was one of those things that, like, yeah, I've got a scar on my head and because I lied to my mum. So don't lie to your mum because she'll know, and then your brains will fall out.
Definitely don't lie to your mom because I'm a parent and I know exactly what my son's lying 110%. So yeah. Lie to your parents, kids. They know.
They do. Yeah,
what's
they
your
know
worst
you
habit?
better than you think.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely. So what's your worst habit? Yeah, what's your worst habit, Dave?
I pick fault with everything. I am weirdly one of the reasons I think I'm quite good at my job is because I will look at almost anything, bikes, circuits, people, and I'll pick details. And it's a really annoying habit that I really ought to stop because sometimes you can really spoil something. Instead of looking at something and going, "Oh, that's lovely," I look at it and go, "That's lovely, but it'd be better if that and that color matched." And it's one of those you can't turn it off. But yeah, it's it can be a problem.
Hey, and that's something else nobody knows about you. Exactly what you just said, right? So yeah. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. Is that something you do too?
Not really, no. I tend to just listen to the radio in a workshop or when I'm driving around. When I used to travel a lot more with work, I used to read books quite a lot, which I got into, well, sort of when I started traveling, so in my mid-20s. And the first book I bought, I was actually in a record shop. I was in HMV looking for CDs or whatever, and they had like The Great Escape as the proper book for like £3 or something. And so I picked that up, and that is an amazing book. And the story of what those guys did in reality, and I've read that, and I don't read enough now because I'm always too busy. But I love when you get really into a book and you can get completely lost in it. But I really like books about people doing really epic shit. And I read a couple of years ago, Endurance, which was the book of Shackleton's attempt to circumnavigate the South Pole in a boat called Endurance, and they got shipwrecked. And I think the entire crew survived in the end, but after like a year and a half stuck in the Arctic. And you go, you think you've had a bad day at work? Read that book, what those guys endured, and you go, you've not had a bad day at work. It's like it puts stuff in. There's sometimes when you read like things like The Great Escape or that, or like stuff that was written after the Second World War and bits, and you go, you've had a really easy life. Like these guys have had it tough.
I love to. I read motorcycle maintenance books like from RC51 and all that, right? But I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I listen to all kinds. Of course, I've every Guy Martin audiobook out there I've listened to. Foggy, John Hopkins, Ian Hutchinson, yada yada yada. Motorcycle nerd. I mean, you look at my room, it's like I eat it, I live it, I breathe it. And if my life didn't have motorcycles in it, I don't see
it'd be even
being here. I mean, it's just let's just go. So I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Let me ask you this. If you can invite any 3 people to your private track day, dead or alive, what 3 people would you invite? And they don't have to be motorcycle racers. They could be anybody in the world. Benjamin Franklin, whoever.
I mean, they probably would be motorbike races because I like motorbike races. Valentino Rossi, I think he's just cool, isn't he? It's like I was sort of, I grew up watching Rossi racing, and the fact he's like, he's a year older than me or something, and he could do that stuff, and you just went, Valentino Rossi's the boy. So Valentino Rossi. If we're doing Dead or Alive, Ayrton Senna. Growing up as a kid, the rest of my family watched F1, and Senna was the guy. Funny, he was just to me, he was a pure racer. Like there maybe wasn't the tactics and the mastery that Prost had or something, but if you wanted to go wheel to wheel with somebody and give 100%, Senna was your guy. And third, Joey Dunlop. I mean, who wouldn't want to ride around with Joey Dunlop? I mean, that would just be cool, wouldn't it?
Legend, absolutely. Especially to have Joey and Valentino in the same in the conversations. Yeah, it would be
that'd be pretty cool.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
Yeah.
I'm only going to ask you 2 more questions, and we'll do all our shout outs and all that. But in your racing career, Dave, what racer pushed you the hardest mentally and physically, and what did you learn from that?
Me. Weirdly, other than Riccardo Ballerini and the 400 title thing, it's like.
But I was going to say Riccardo.
Generally, I wasn't a front runner. Most of my racing time, I've not been at the front of the thing I'm doing because I always wanted to be. If there was an option to move up and challenge yourself, I'd rather move up and be the little fish in the big pond, because I think you're learning more about yourself when you're at probably beyond your limit. And I think so the person who's pushed me most is probably me.
I love it, man. I love it. Are you binge watching anything on like Netflix or Disney Plus you could recommend to anybody?
I don't watch that much TV, if I'm honest. I tend to be flat out busy a lot of the time, and then I sit on the sofa with a girlfriend and then just go, oh, what's on? And if I'm really unlucky, it'll be like Married at First Sight or something, which I will zone out to completely. I'm on the sofa and I'm watching it, but my brain is working out, what spec engine we're having in the twin for TT next year. And I like it. Every now and again, I'd watch a film over a series. I would a bit like reading a book. You can lose yourself in it for a bit longer.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. There's actually several movies that I kind of want to watch this weekend. So I don't know. We'll see if I get to. I'm a lot like you. I could be the motorcycles, doing podcasts, watching motorcycle racing, thinking about just motorcycles, right? That's why I'm so hyper focused. Anything outside of there, Dave, it's like I could be having a conversation with my dad and I'm thinking about the RC51, or I got to catch up on Obsession Engineering YouTube video or whatever, right? It's just like,
Oh, I've got a question for you then. Bounce about the other way then. Favorite film? What would you be watching if you had the chance to watch? All TV forever was going to be broken. You got a chance to watch one film.
Only one film for the rest of my life? Oh man, that's a good question. Obviously, it'd have to do with motorcycle racing, so it'd either be something with the TT, like Closer to the Edge, or maybe one of the MotoGP ones, is like the Doctor, the Texas Tornado, the Kentucky Kid, or Faster or Fastest. Definitely motorcycle, but honestly, if I had to pick just one, it would be a film on the TT, whether it was Closer to the Edge, the Between the Hedges. So that would be my answer for sure, 100%. Because of the emotions and there's just people don't understand, if you're not into the TT or into motorcycle racing, you really don't get it, right? It consumes me, you know.
Trust me, I get it.
I know you do, Dave. Absolutely.
We can go down the rabbit hole, can't we? And it's just it's all consumed. I mean, TT consumed most of my life for 15 years, so it does that.
It does. It's a beautiful thing, right? And so speaking of the TT, you got plans obviously in 2025 to go back?
I hopefully, but there's nothing set yet because I basically agreed to run Illy, Milky's lad, but when that didn't happen, then I'm a little bit of a loose end. It's like hopefully I'll have somebody riding my mini twin, super twin, the little Aprilia. Tom Whedon's going to ride my BM again. They've given him dispensation to run it, even though it's technically out of date. But he enjoyed that last year. So, the BM will be there. Hopefully, I'll be there running the twin. Potentially, we could do something with some of the BSB team, with some of the Rapid Honda lot. But nothing set in stone. But the door is not closed.
That's right. Well, good. I can't wait to see what 2025 holds in store for the TT side, the BSB side, of course, Obsession Engineering, because I'm obsessed with the channel. It's absolutely amazing. Actually, I just watched the the Suzuki air cooled one,
Oh,
the
yeah,
fork
yeah.
rebuild, and then next I'm gonna watch was it the Marches Mark? I can't
Um,
never say that word.
Marzucci or Marzocchi. And even I don't know how to
Suspension.
pronounce
Yeah.
it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I've not yet watched that one, but it's on the agenda today for sure. As I'm cooking dinner, that's when I get in my whole YouTube kind of deal.
And
I
that's
don't.
some of that stuff is proper geeky.
Dude,
That is
I'm a nerd, man, so I love
yeah,
all that shit for sure.
good.
I do.
Yeah.
I get it. Like I've seen your 749 Ducati restoration, which was really cool. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
watched
Yeah,
a
we
lot of
have
them.
some random stuff on there, yeah. So the next project after that is the polar opposite of the Suzuki. So yeah.
I
Yeah, we've
can't
got
wait. I can't wait. One more questions, but before we get into all the shout outs and all that good stuff, are you planning on doing any more with the SP1 on the YouTube
um
channel, or are you pretty much done with
not
it?
not a vast amount because I've basically done two of them now. I
Yeah.
did one for my mate Henry, and I've now done my own SP1. Now I've ridden mine a little bit. There's a couple of little tweaks I'm going to do. So there'll be might be one or two little standalone ones on the SP1, but it's near enough as I want it. There's just usual. I ride it and then I go, I think I can make it 2% better. So that's what we're going to do.
Well, what advice would you give me on my SP2 as far as suspension and all that setup?
They need preload spaces in the forks because they didn't spec the forks right, and when you top the forks out, the spring can actually rattle around in them. So you need a 14 mil spacer to actually get the preload working right in the forks. And if you can get a better rear shock for it, that makes a hell of a difference because the standard shock it was probably okay in the year 2000, but stuff's moved on.
It really has.
Yeah,
it really has.
And the thing is with that bike, the chassis is so good, it needs the last little details, and the stuff isn't bad, but it could just be that little bit better. And like every bike out there, get the suspension right first. That's what makes them ride properly.
Yeah, because the trick is the two black round things that we call tires is getting the most grip, making the rider the most comfortable, and giving them the feeling that they need to go fast, right? It's not, and then the electronics and all that shit play into it after you get them comfortable on, because that's the whole game we play is the two black things that we ride on.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So. It's getting the you can go and buy a good pair of black round things. That's easy. That's the easy bit. Getting the bits that go up and down to keep those bits on the floor working right. That's where it gets a bit more exciting. That's where it gets technical.
It is, in my opinion. Like, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think, like, as far as the springs go, front and rear, it's just all they do is hold the motorcycle up, right? Everything else is what you need to concentrate on getting the best feel out of and setting it up, because you'll get to a point where rider sag and static sag and all this, but you'll get fast to where you outride that, right? So
you see, it's the way I rank it. Setting bikes up is kind of a job nowadays. Is the springs are the most important bit because they have to support the bike. And like if you're riding a touring bike, they want to be fairly soft so they go over the bumps nice and keep you comfy. But on a sports bike, they've got to support the mass of the bike, and they've got to control the weight of the bike as it's pitching forwards and backwards and the load in the corners. And so you go, that's one side of it. But then, like, that's the most important. Get the springs right first, because there's no point having the wrong spring, and you can't fix it with damping. And then you get the damping right so that the spring works correctly. And so it's one of those things that people think is a black magic or something, and it's like, it isn't. It's just really technical to get all the little details right. And that's one of the places as well that you ride a bike from 20 years ago, and the suspension now has got so much better, but you kind of don't see it because all the bits that have got better are buried inside, so you don't see it. So suspension is, you can get fully geeky with suspension.
Yeah, I'm going down several black rabbit holes as far as suspension, just to better like, I got a good understanding of it, but you think you do, and you think you're fast until you start deep diving in it, and you're like, I have no idea anything about suspension, right? So it's one of those. Yeah, it's one of those rabbit holes that if you want to, it's just like sitting down looking at all the squiggly black lines on the telemetry and all that. I'm like, dude, yeah, this is where your throttle opening, and and you're like, dude, I gave it the full beans. Come out of this corner, and you're sitting down with the data guy. And he's looking at, he's like, dude, you got a pair of panties on right now because you're only at 30%. You need to be at least 70. And you're like, dude, I swear I was. You're like, this says otherwise.
Yeah,
right?
no.
So,
no, there's something wrong with it. Yeah.
There's something wrong with the bike. Yeah, it's right here, dude. It's that's what's wrong with it. Yeah. Dave,
100%.
bro, this has been an absolute. I told you we'd have a proper really good time, right? I'm gonna let you end the podcast here in a minute, but I just need to give my shout outs real quick. Thank you for everybody that watches and likes this podcast. Listen, it's such an honor to be able to do this and sit down. Thank you guys so much. I love every single one of you guys and girls. It's hard for me to make a heart with my other hand. So there you guys go. If you guys not had the chance, please go hit that like and subscribe button on my YouTube, Spotify, all that good stuff. You guys know the deal. Big shout out to Next Level Financial, bisontrack.com for your full custom suit. What are you guys waiting on? Chef Eats, Flying Eyes Optics for sunglasses, SFL Mini GP out here. So we have a program out here in America, Dave. SFL Mini GP, one in Jersey, one in South Florida. That's where all our future legends of our sport that I call coming from, like Avery the Lap Slayer, Dreyer, his sister Ella, Isaac Woodworth, Gus Rodeo, Brandon Posh. You know Brandon Posh. He's a good mate of mine. Moto 3 champ out there, all that good stuff. Race to Triumph for, dude, I'm a freaking nerd. Anyway, big shout out to SFL Mini GP, the best organization. This is what I love about them. I love everything, but Dave, they make it so easy and no excuses. So let's say, Dave, you have a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, whatever it is. You want to introduce them to motorcycles, right? You basically pay a registration fee. You don't have to have helmet, boots, gloves, leathers, or a motorcycle. They provide all that. You just sign up, show up. They put you out there, and you can even rent bikes, right? So let's say they have a little CRF 50 or TTR 110, whatever. Hey, I want to try that before you go out and spend the money on it. You can rent it, right? So
they're breaking down the barriers that stop people riding, and that's mega in it. That's great.
Absolute
that's what we need.
Mega. Yes, it is, and that's why I freaking love it. That's why I run the logo, because my buddy Michael Carrera, he runs it, and then his son Jillian Carrera, British Talent Cup. I know you know Juju number 40, right? Yeah. So big shout out to RD Racing, right? And my mate Jake Marsh. Thank you guys for all the love. You guys are absolutely proper mega. I got a buddy that has a program called Vet 2 Track. So all my veterans out there, his whole motto is battling PTSD one lap at a time. So he brings them out there to the track, and they get to help on a team, or whatever it is, tire warmers, rear stand, front stand, just to
be involved in something,
to get out of that headspace. You know what I mean? So big shout out to 64 Degree Racing. They make custom undersuits. I got a 2-piece custom undersuit they sent me, Dave, and I love it. And I tell everybody this: don't show up to a track day or a race weekend with one undersuit. That's just like going out for 3 days with the same pair of underwear on. You don't want to do it. Trust me. Now you'll get next to your mates, and they'll be like, what is that smell?
Once you've sweated in that once, do you really want to be the man that puts it back on again?
No, you don't, trust me. But we've all been there, and that's how we learn, right? You're like, oh, I'll be fine. So you wake up the next day, you're like, yeah, I'm not putting that back on. I'm just gonna
crusty. We don't like crusty, do we?
No, we don't. No, not very much. So, but big shout out to the Clothing Kings, my man Martin. You guys can go to clothingkings.co.uk and order all your Pin to Gas merch. So thank you for him. BSB Barmy Army, what they do for you guys out there is absolutely amazing. And then Road Racing World Fun, right? So we have Chris Ulrich and John Ulrich. I know you've heard of them, Road Racing, and I hear. So I need everybody to go out there and go to roadracingworld.com and donate to the Road Racing World Fund, which helps us with our air fences. They provide air fences at our racetracks, which is absolutely mandatory, because without them, it's just like corner marshal workers, Dave, in the ambulance. If we didn't have the air fence, the corner marshals, or the ambulance, guess what?
Exactly.
No bueno, right? So it's very important whether you're out there, and that's all around the world, whether it's German, ASBK, all that. So go sign up, find out who your local guy is that does all that, and donate. Trust me, it helps out more than you realize it does. Big shout out to my buddy's got a dealership out here in Pennsylvania, Carnage Performance. So if anybody's in the market for a dirt bike, a sports bike, a side-by-side, UTV, any performance tuning whatsoever, look no further than Carnage Performance. And KYT Helmets, Dave, I'm a huge fan. Brandon Craig too, my man, KYT America, right? So
I think Rick wears one of those at Manx Grand Prix, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
He's in KYT.
Yep, and then my mates out here at K-Tech Suspension, they're absolutely proper mega.
And that links in nicely because I'm a K-Tech dealer. So if you need K-Tech in the UK, come to me.
There you go, man. Hey, trust me, you don't want that stock suspension. You want that K-Tech suspension. Absolutely imperative. Go see my man Dave out there in the UK. He will absolutely sort you out. And then when you have a bike, it's just like, to me, it's like having a full custom set of leathers versus your stock off the shelf leathers versus a proper setup suspension on your bike versus your stock. It's like, what have I been missing this whole time, right?
It's just better.
Everything is better.
Exactly. Tailored for you, sir. Oh, suits you, sir. The UK guys will get that one.
I love it. Dave, listen, before I end the podcast, mate, tell everybody where they can find you, your YouTube channel, the whole nine.
Right. Pretty much everything is Obsession Engineering. So there's a YouTube channel. There's also obsessionengineering.co.uk, which has merch on it, a contact form if you want to get in touch. And, if you're in the UK and want your bike building or improving or some suspension or whatever, or some motor oil, give me a shout. I'm also going to give a shout out to, I do a collab with Holy. This one's a caffeine one, so I'm bouncing a little bit. They do, basically it's energy drinks, iced teas and hydration drinks, but they've got loads of vitamins and bits in them. None of the junk you get in the canned energy drinks. It's mega. Check out Holy. I can't remember the web address. Just type in Holy Energy Drinks. Join the Holy Squad. If you like drinking energy drinks and stuff, that stuff is mega because it's actually got stuff in it. It's good for you, which makes a difference. Yeah. So that's it. Oh, yeah. And really importantly, I really ought not forget this one. This screen's backward, isn't it? Rapid. We do rapid rider coaching. And so we do advanced rider coaching in the UK. We do it for road and track. So if you want to be more confident, more competent, safer rider, whether that's on track or on the road, check out rapidtraining.co.uk. That's it. I think I've covered most of the bases there.
I think you have. If not, you'll have another. We'll sit down and absolutely do part 2. So you guys stay tuned for part 2 with the legend himself, bro, Dave Hewson. It's been an absolute honor, man. And thank you so much. Just stay on with me for 1 second. Let me end this real quick. Let me end the podcast.